This is my Demko Knives AD20 machine ground, or MG. There are many like it, but this one is mine. And thanks to Lavender Pants 86, this one is mine. A few weeks back, well, over a month now, I guess, he alerted me to the fact that at his local knife shop, they had a few of these, 6 of them, I think. He sent me a picture, and he was the first one there to discover them, so I got to choose. I chose the red/maroon. He bought it for me. I paid him back and he sent it to me. It was like that. After a year of searching and a year of poking around and doing a little bit of begging here and there, finally it fell into my lap. So I'm here to tell you, it can happen to you too. Speaking as someone who never quite has his ear to the ground for when things drop, or never quite has the funds ready, or maybe is preoccupied with some other crazy bladed thing that I'm not going to use. It can happen to you too. So this is really, really worth all of the hype. It's not hype, it's praise, and it is worth all of that praise. So this knife, if you've been living in a cold, dark place, this is Andrew Demko's latest design, and it has been flying off the proverbial shelves, so to speak. They make them in Pennsylvania, in Wampum, Pennsylvania. He and his brother John, and they make them and they sell just about as quickly as they make them. And so that's why he went to machine ground blades instead of hand grinding all the bevels. He does that for his custom models, and then for the MG line, he has the bevels machine ground in. And but that's about it. Everything else is done by them, and what a spectacular knife. Okay, all right. I promised myself I wasn't going to just sit here and worship the thing. But now that I'm looking at it under the lights and with this high definition video, I'm discovering it anew, people. So this one has 20 CV blade steel. You can see it's scratched into the tang ever so slightly. There's actually schmutz on it now, so you can't quite see it. But this is 20 CV steel. When you see these, many of them have a lozenge-shaped hole in the blade. I kind of went back and forth a little bit, but this is going to sound totally shallow of me, but maybe you're used to this at this point. You know, I do go by looks a lot, and with that blade, with the hole in the blade, it makes the blade look shorter, and it throws off, just visually, the handle to blade ratio for me. Okay, I know, stupid and shallow, but that's how I feel. So I opted for this one, but also it had the scale color that I really like. I don't have too much red G10, and the redder it is, the more it trends towards an orange red, the less I like it. But to me, this one looks a bit like burgundy, and I love burgundy handled knives, so I opted for that. It is quite thick blade steel. What is it, like an 1/8 of an inch thick? It's pretty thick blade steel, blade stock here. But I'll be damned if it doesn't come to an extremely sharp edge. Now, I know it's not the sliciest thing in the world. You put this through an apple, it's going to sort of wedge it apart more like an axe than a chef's knife. But it is just, the edge is so sharp on this. So, you know, I don't need to slice apples with this. I like this for the fact that it is ultra robust and super duper strong, but at the same time, quite a capable cutter. Okay, let me try and organize my thoughts here. Since I was talking about the blade, I'll start with the blade. It is, as you can see, a clip point blade, a swedgeless clip point blade, which is a nice change. Most of my clip points have swedges, so this is a, like I said, kind of a nice change, and it gives it sort of a triangular cross section, when you push it into something, or actually technically kind of a conical cross section. It's got a saber grind, so that's a flat grind coming up a little bit past halfway, and it's got this really excellent and useful run of jimping, running the entire straight of the spine until the clip breaks and it comes down to the point. And really excellent terraced thumb studs. Thing I really like about the jimping on the blade is that if you're doing really hard work with this thing, which admittedly I have not done yet, but I wouldn't feel shy about it with this, it's a perfect landing spot for your thumb. And when I first saw this design, actually was on one of the podcasts we did with Mr. Demko, with Andrew Demko, and he showed us this lock. I thought, oh, that's in a weird spot. That's going to affect the thumb, but it doesn't. It only enhances your grip. So here, you don't feel it. Here, you don't feel it. If you're in a saber grip like this, it's the perfect thumb ramp. And these little micro jimps, the jimping on here is really grippy. So it really acts as a wonderful thumb rest there and thumb ramp. And then everywhere else you choose to put your thumb, it doesn't affect at all. So ergonomically, this thing is amazing, especially when you consider there's a protrusion right there on the spine. It is pretty amazing. The placement is perfect. So if you've heard any of the interviews with Andrew Demko on our show or anywhere else, you'll know that he really obsesses over designing new locks, and he'll lie awake at night thinking about new lock geometry and new ways to solve old problems. And this shark lock, that's what this is called, the shark lock, because this is evocative of a shark's dorsal fin. The shark lock was something that he came up with before the scorpion lock, and then never really knew how to perfect it, and then did the ram safe and for the pocket bushman and a couple of other locks, and then came back to this one a few years back at this point and rediscovered it and sort of filled in the missing link, the missing pieces from his earlier thoughts on it. So it just goes to show sometimes if you sit on an idea long enough, you can solve the problems you're going for. Sometimes it just takes time or a little bit of subconscious energy. So we were talking about these I was talking about these micro jimps here. Same thing right here, which is perfect for unlocking the knife. Locks open, flies open on bearings really nicely, and then there's no missing this. It catches your thumb, or it catches your forefinger perfectly. And it sounds like a shotgun racking, doesn't it? It's got a great sound, this knife. All right, little details, that really nice Demko pivot. Demko Knives, it says. Wampum, PA, a little bit of Pennsylvania pride there. Pennsylvania is a great knife state. Lots of knives get made in Pennsylvania. Really, really nice ergonomics on this handle. We've seen some of this before in his designs, but here I believe it is perfected. It's like almost a double choil, but not enough to force your fingers to commit. And you've got a nice bird's beak at the end, giving yourself plenty of room. And look, I have medium-sized hands. I think someone with giant mitts, their hands are going to fit in there just fine as well. And if not, if they're really giant, they can just choke up into this sort of, let's call it a 75-25 choil here. 75% of it is on the handle, 25% of it is the blade tang. You can see how it's scooped out ever so slightly there to accommodate your finger. These are just my thoughts. I know you've seen 1,000 videos of this knife if you've gone this far, but so look at this here. I love these really broad standoffs. I'm going to compare it to a couple of knives here, and one of them this competes with the Hinderer standoffs for just wide girthy, run it over with a car kind of standoffs. To keep weight down, these are solid G10 slabs without liners. The liners only are here to accommodate the lock and the area around the pivot. Now, I'm not gonna, well, I am going to try to explain how this works, but this, when you pull it back, it wedges, let's see, it's spring loaded and it just wedges into a little notch here. You know what, I'm not gonna try and explain it. Because as I'm talking about it, I'm realizing I can't remember exactly how it works, and I don't want to give you false information. This locking bar does come up ever so slightly, and I do know that there's a bit of wedging that happens somewhere, and I know that that little notch there plays into it. Oh, Bob, do your research, Bob. Well, I did my research, and I had the man himself tell me how it goes, but I don't remember everything that's told to me. And gee whiz, I'm gonna have to go back and check out the video. Maybe you can do the same. Let me show this off with a couple of other knives before I wrap up. This was just an excuse, a little bit of, you know, knife lookage, knife gawking, if you will. And I'll just show it off with a couple of other knives here. Since I was talking about this, here's the Hinderer Xm24, another stout and awesome knife. But what I wanted to compare, I'm going to close this one up because it's a Wharncliffe and I don't want to drop it, even on a cutting board. But let's look at these standoffs. I mean, are those not just burly, beefy standoffs in both? Man, I love this. Okay, so AD20, Xm24, a little bit longer in the blade, a little bit chunkier overall. Here it is with the AD15, in this case, produced by Cold Steel. This is, I don't have any, I have probably Demko is the most, I have the most of his designs of anyone else in my collection, but only one from Demko Knives, and that's this. I plan to remedy that with one of the AD20.5s. I'd like to get the Wharncliffe version of that. But so far, this is the only Demko Knives Demko design I have. This, of course, is made by Cold Steel. They did an excellent job on this. This is the Scorpion lock, which is pretty strong also, and it has this yoke that locks over that pin. Just cool and innovative. I haven't used or carried this one that much. Oh, I have an animal scratching on the other side of my door. You're gonna have to wait, Gato. So this is the AD20, here it is, or AD15. Here's the AD10. This one has gotten a lot of use. This was from the first run, Cold Steel AD10, of course. From the first run where they were hollow ground. Very glad I got in on the hollow ground version of this. Very nice, very sharp blade, S35VN, great size. Just a great knife overall. Longer handle, shorter blade. So, you know, it does, I do prefer the handle to blade ratio on this. But again, these are just aesthetic details. And then, of course, the biggest daddy of them all here, the Formax Scout. Let's say, budget version of the Cold Steel version of the Demko Knives knife, the Formax. Just a great stout beauty. This thing is awesome. I had this in my pocket last weekend for chores out in the backyard. I have this rainbow fob on for two reasons. Primary reason is Jimmy Slash gave this to me. Josh gave this to me, and so to honor him, I put a fob on the end. He always has some cool, colorful lanyard on his knife. And then I like the rainbow for cognitive dissonance. You see this big gnarly knife, and then you see a rainbow cord. It's just sort of happy and joyous. So anyway, I'll remove the Hinderer for now and just show it with these knives. So this is your, well, actually, this is my Demko Knives AD20, a really a prized possession in my knife collection, I have to say. And definitely a member of the royal family. Too bad I made that video before I got this, because this definitely deserves a spot in the royal family of the DeMarco knife collection. All right, everybody, thanks for watching.